Can the Necrons ever truly return to their flesh bodies and resume who they were? I think the bodies might be less of an issue than their minds. They have the memories of who they were, some vestiges of personality, but much else has changed. To examine this idea, if the Necrons are flawed copies or perfect ones, let's look at the moments before and after biotransference. We join Zozar from the novel Indomitus. Zozar stands with his partner, Clephacia. She lifted his spirits even as his body is ravaged by tumours, and he wished for one thing before the transfer to his new body: for you to like this video to aid his escape from the prison of flesh. Also, one of his daughters, Isaurus, asks if biotransference will hurt, and his partner answers for him, saying it will free us from the pain. His other daughter, Azella, not satisfied with his wife's gentle reassurance, asks him if it will, and adds, "You helped build it. You should know." And from the Evermount, Zozar saw the great machine that had been erected at its summit. It was true that he had devised some of its angled walls and projecting antennae, stretching like hands towards the rising sun, but of its real workings he knew little. He says, lightly, it will tickle to his daughter's amusement. As nobility, albeit of low rank, they would be among the first to enter the biotransference halls. Zozar took his daughter's hands and led them up the marble pathway, while other families gathered ahead at the gates. He realised he was trembling with enticement, and they could sense it too. So close to the end of the pain, Zozar could scarce believe that he had played a small part in the creation of their salvation. Moments later, this dream turns to nightmare, as before his eyes, each of his daughters fell apart, their flesh slewing off to reveal the clean metal lines beneath. And then the same happened to his beloved, and her warm stare of love and warmth became a cold red stare of optical lenses. All three had become metallic statues, and he woke. And from that nightmare in the realm of dreams, he woke to the nightmare of life, his own metal flesh. The scream inside him stopped before vocalization, and he saw his own tripodal body, his multiple arms each holding a weapon, and deep within his form throbbed an emptiness where his half-remembered soul should have been. The last tattered vestiges of his loved ones fluttered from thought, and the emptiness inside swelled with a different strength. He felt only rage. So we can see their hope and salvation lost in that moment of the radiation damage gone, but also their souls. So let's look at these copies of the Necron Tyr. Are they who they once were in mind? From the twice dead king. Biotransference, after all, had not been without its cost, and the Necron Tyr had only forsaken death by forsaking life along with it. The Necron Tyr were gone, replaced by constructs which only remembered having once been people, if their rank offered them the privilege of remembering anything at all. So it seems their bodies have the minds at least mostly transferred over, as the deceiver promised, right? This next part comes from a discussion between Trazyn and Oricon from the infinite and the divine. My only caution, my friend, is that you do not cling so hard to these memories. When the deceiver made these bodies we inhabit, he twisted them, and he twisted our engrams. I cannot remember what my old face looked like, or the place where I was born. It would not be far-fetched for the deceiver to have planted false memories to sow discord amongst our kind. Now with the name deceiver, that's not a surprise. It makes sense to me that the minds copied over were not perfect in some elements, to perhaps make the Necrons more malleable to the wants of the Catan. They do end up worshipping them, but I'm not exactly sure when that occurred in the timeline. And remember, whilst the lowest rank might just get a robot body to pilot around in the name of the Catan, the elites, the rulers, have more of a sense of themselves. And I think the Catan would want that. Have the leadership in place, specifically the science minds, to help with technology during their fight, and to provide leadership during the battle against the Old Ones across the many, many battlefields they'll be facing them on. Now, those of that level also receive degradation. We know Oricon rebelled against the biotransference and was dragged to the Great Machine by Trazyn along with others. But in Trazyn's memory, he was the one who hid and was forced to undergo the metal body change. So even those of high rank did not come out untouched, and this could have been done one for one if the Catan had wanted. So it was on purpose. Why do I think that? An important engromancer, Mentep, gives the star of the twice-dead king, Altix, several subminds. He can speak and learn from them. Altix had never heard the subminds speak from outside of his mind before, except for in the stripped-down ocular code, and it was even harder to make out which of them was speaking. In a way, its voice sounded like a composite of all of them, even being underscored by the faint non-verbal growls of combat. It sounded, in fact, exactly like his own. Another example is that of Zot. Within him, Mentep had added a serving mind. Zot is a canoptek reanimator. This serving mind is a copy of Zot's own personality, showing they can be duplicated without difference, especially in the hands of a skilled engromancer, and assumes some of them were involved in the creation of the Great Machine, which did the biotransference. So they think they were once members of the Necron Tyr when they are something new. Orokin speaks to Trazyn on this. Some seem aware of this loss, others not so much. But if you stepped into the Forges, got a new metal body, think of all you could do, catalogue the entire cosmos if you wished, and all of it to keep you from thinking about how the things that had made Trazyn had burned off in those fires, eaten by the deceiver. Or is that your secret, that you do not miss your soul at all? Trazyn doesn't seem consumed by this new, perhaps better life, whilst others struggle with its emptiness. And just in the recording of this video and in this moment, something occurred to me. Perhaps if the Catan ate souls of the Necrons, perhaps something is just simply lost by that very process. All that knowledge, all that thing that makes you, perhaps that is lost with the soul and it can't really be transferred over. Just a thought that came to me. Anyway, emptiness. Emptiness ruled, not to be filled by the designs and desires of the ghoulish flesh wearers, nor ignored by the transcendent post-life canoptek engine folk. What was lost could never be regained. It was not flesh and blood to be put on like a fresh robe. The sanctity of being the soul that had carried their lives and their meaning had been taken away. Only nothingness held refuge, but there could be no oblivion while life still remained. That was from Indomitus, and the thought of Zozar, a destroyer lord, who we started with, and so we will finish with him. When he had first awoken, Zozar had spent a considerable amount of energy abducting sentients to analyse their psychic makeup. He had questioned them at length about their feelings, delving beyond systemic biochemical responses to expose the very depth of true emotion. It had been the approach of an engineer to break apart the problem, to understand it, in the hopes that it would contain the solution for its own rebuilding. He had come to one madness-inducing conclusion. There was no cure for the biotransference. Whatever plans and dreams the likes of Zarek thought up, Zozar knew they could no more harness their souls than they could grip the vacuum itself. There was nothing left to grasp. If you like this video about the souls and minds of the Necrons, try this other Necron video, see if you like that too.